Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Rise of Ashara video. So, patch 8.2, it's on the PTR, and this gives us a great glimpse at all the new cosmetic rewards that are going to await us, as well as a massive hint at a potential future allied race. And before we get into it, a super quick notification in that we are adding this bit of art to our Patreon this month. You'll get that in addition to the already planned, this guy, and all the other stuff. So of course, very HP Lovecraft inspired, given Blizzard's inspirations for the things that are going on in game, well, as of yesterday and today. So that's what's up over there, and let's get into the video. Okay, allied races first. So there are no new ones coming in 8.2, but we're not so sure about 8.2.5 or 8.3, and something rather strange has been data mined. A Brewfest icon for the Vulpera was included in this patch, along with Brewfest icons for the other BFA allied races. So the Dark Irons, the Draenei, the Mag'har, the High Mountain, the Nightborn, the Void Elves, etc. They all have their Brewfest icons. They're all playable allied races, and that kind of suggests that, well, Vulpera might be as well. We do know that more allied races are planned for the game, and while the Vulpera are not universally loved, I think we can all agree that Vulpera would make Blizzard a boatload of money. I think they're pretty much a sealed deal because of that, and I think it might somewhat make sense based on how Blizzard are also revamping the Goblins. Now, if the Goblins are receiving new rigs and models, especially the rigs, well, the Vulpera, they share a rig with the Goblins, so production-wise, that would make sense for the introduction of Vulpera, and this Brewfest icon could be our first hint at that. And then I want to mention the new mech gnomes. Nothing points towards them being an allied race, but they sure do have interesting models and customization options just running around Mechagon. They technically have been added in-game as a race, but that's just more down to the technical implementation. And while both Alliance and Horde do actually help the Rustbolt resistance, well, seeing as they're gnomes, I could imagine them joining the Alliance in a future patch. So I thought that stuff was pretty cool. That's potentially two allied races, at least a very solid hint at one of them, one that'll really set people wild. So with that covered, next, as is tradition over here, let's take a look at the new armor of this patch. So we'll kick it off with the Season 3 raiding sets. Once again, this is armor type based, not class based, so we get our 4 raid variations and 3 PvP versions, with the PvP versions having Alliance and Horde colored themes, of course. And starting with the raid plate, well, I think normal through heroic plate are repeating a massive BFA mistake. It just looks like dungeon gear. I mean, the colors are really muted, it's really simple overall. I don't think this is a set that anyone's going to be excited to earn in-game, and that's a pity, because then you look at the Mythic version, which looks quite good. It's weird, I think that by adding in the new colors and the fins and stuff like that, the Mythic version, well, it looks like a raid set. And really, I think it's unfortunate how much their Warlords of Draenor Onwards Mythic plan, at least within BFA, has ended up just feeling like a nerf to the visuals of Heroic and below. So, I mean, yeah, Mythic looks great, but the rest of it's really boring. Hopping over to Mail, we see the same pattern. The Raid Finder and normal versions are so dull. The Heroic one, I think, fares far better because I like its color palette more, but yeah, these are too simple to be a raid set. This is the gear from the pinnacle type of WoW content, the thing the game's known for doing the best. And I just don't think this is good enough. I don't think it's interesting enough. And I'm really not trying to be a downer here. Now, repeating the usual theme, the Mythic one is pretty good. It's developed enough to actually feel like raid gear. Just compare the gloves, right? And I think you really see it. Really, this Mythic version should be the base model, with the Mythic version just being a new tint with some particle effects or slightly different shoulders or something. I think there's no need to deprive the other raid modes a decent set. And I'm not saying that because I want really cool looking gear to be accessible. I'm saying that because it feels like a downgrade over what we got in Legion, and this is with them only having to do 1 set per armor type instead of, 1 per class. So you would have expected better from this. Then moving on to leather, I think it does fare quite a bit better. I think the fins just help to prevent the typical variants of it from feeling overly dull. Though that said, it's comparatively good. I'm not saying it's great overall. The Mythic variant is, again, pretty cool, but I don't think there's really enough here to excite people that much. Then finally, I think Cloth fares the best, with its basic versions feeling developed enough to work as a raid reward. And then the Mythic variant is just extremely cool here. I mean, come on, it's playing into the N'Zoth theme. It's got your purples and your oranges. I think it's really gorgeous, really meaty, and I love it. So that's really good. And yeah, overall, I mean, I'm pretty disappointed by the PvE offering here, I'll level with you. In most cases, this stuff looks worse than BFA dungeon sets, worse than the raid sets even. I'm not really sure what happened here. Blizzard's armored type based gear plan could have worked fine, but they've instead just ended up shipping Raid Finder normal and heroic versions for now 3 raids in a row of the gear, where it just looks significantly more boring than the previous gear rewards. Just from, raiding in Legion or in BFA or in WoD even, so it's just a bit weird. Really, I think most people just mog out of this stuff. So then PvP plate, I think it benefits from having more saturated colors. I think the elite versions are particularly cool for both factions, especially the Alliance one. I just love those colors. Once again, PvP is probably going to be the fastest way to access the new visual set. Still, on the whole, I think plate's looking, sort of fine here. I'm not really sure if this set meshes well with class themes, but that's just something that comes with the territory with armor type based sets. And then as we move on to mail, well, the core problems just, extend across just that. The Alliance and Horde color themes stand out a bit more than with the PvE sets. Now the leather PvP gear is a similar situation, though I will say I think the Alliance Elite version looks incredible, just like all the fins and the color palette, it just lines up to look brilliant in my view. And then with my main being a monk, yeah, that's the thing I'm going to be shooting for. And then with cloth, it is it's the same story, not as amazing as a model, but hey, the PvP versions have pretty strong colors, and that does make it stand out a bit more. That's not all though, we do actually have the cloth and plate aspirant gear, and I think the plate aspirant is pretty cool. Like, it's basic-ish armor, but they've managed to make it stand out with those coral elements, so that's really nice. It's almost odd, the PvP aspirant gear is pretty much more interesting looking than the heroic raid gear, which is odd. Then the cloth aspirant is really lovely, you're kind of in more official attire, but slightly worse for wear obviously. I actually prefer this to the raid version, which is a strange situation to be in. So with that covered, let's talk about the weapons, and I'm just going to call out the more noteworthy stuff. So Mechagon is bringing loads of cool weapons. There's these big two-handed staffs that I love. You've got the Fusion Hacker, which is a blowtorch. That's certainly something new. There are new gun models that kind of look like a sci-fi ray gun. And then there's the Log, which is just a wooden log. Now for the Eternal Palace, well, I don't think its weapon set is fully done yet or fully implemented, but there are some cool new things. I like the new crossbows quite a bit, the new polearms are quite nice as well, and the new glaives are a bit of a change of pace. I also like the swirling gems that are inlaid into many of the items here. I think they're pretty nice in motion. Overall, I'd say this is a great patch for mounts, as the other video today covered, and it seems to be great for mechanical character customization, as we'll cover in the Heart of Azeroth video, but I've got to admit that bar that Mechagon stuff, the new armor is pretty darn weak indeed. Certainly less exciting than the days when we would get a full set, for every class. And it's kind of weird, I've got to wonder, what's going on here, because if they were to move from doing one for every class to just doing one for every armor type, with a patch like this, you really would have suspected, or expected even, that each one of them would be better and would have more effort put into it, right? Because less of them were being made. But instead, we went from one for every class down to having only 4, but those 4 look worse. The mythic versions of the Ashara raid stuff kind of don't really look as good as many of the mythic versions of the Legion gear. So I'm actually just left wondering, what's going on here? Why is it this way? And I have a bit of a suspicion. We know that Chris Robinson, he said in BlizzCon, actually, that they were working on, he seemed to indicate they were working on a kind of tint-based system. Now, it wasn't a tint-based system like their old, they used to do for some of the Warlords of Draenor, or not the Warlords, the Burning Crusade gear that ended up looking like clown gear. But he did say that they were developing some gear that was designed to have loads of different tint variants, but that was not a near-term thing. So I've got to wonder, is the art team working on some sort of major project down the line? And perhaps that major project is eating up a lot of their resources, so they've decided to skimp out on the amount of time they put into this gear. Because let's be real, if we look at this gear, it did not take as much time as gear from, say, Legion would have taken. So it makes me wonder, will 8.3 have some sort of new tint gear system? Will 9.0 have that? Maybe 9.0 is going to have an actual, a new race, and that's taking up a bunch of their time. Maybe the Worgen and Goblin revamps are taking up a lot of their time. It's hard to know, what things would use the same artists, I suppose, but I've got to imagine that there is something going on that is the core to why they have decided to make well, to just do far faster to make gear for the patches this time around. Those resources are obviously going somewhere, so I'm just left wondering, where are they going to? Which does lead to exciting speculation, but obviously for the here and now, yeah, I'm pretty underwhelmed by most of the gear here. That said, hey, I mean, Vulpera allied race, the Junker Gnomes, if they ended up being an allied race, that'd be pretty cool, and a lot of the new weapons are actually really cool indeed. So, really, Mechagon right now is just getting all thumbs up. Anyway, there you go, that is a look at some of the new cosmetics and a bit of speculation about the potential new allied races of this expansion. Let me know what you think down below. Thank you very much for watching this video, and with that, I'll see you next time.